After the divorce, the school beauty, who had been my childhood sweetheart, took an interest in me. To be with my white moonlight in an open and legitimate way. My childhood sweetheart pretended to go bankrupt, hoping I would initiate the divorce. Later, I did as she wished. But then, she went crazy, kneeling at my doorstep, begging me to give her another chance. Sayu, when are you going to tell Shushur or Fong the truth? Are you really playing your own role so seriously? I was passing by the door of the first VIP room, holding a glass of wine, when a familiar voice came from inside. I paused, peeking through the partially open door, and saw Lin Siyu sitting in the middle of the room, wearing a high-end V-neck dress, holding a glass of red wine. Next to her was her white moonlight, Chen Xiao, along with a few other friends, both men and women. Since Lin's company went bankrupt 3 months ago, Lin Siyu had claimed that she no longer belonged in their world and that she wouldn't associate with them anymore. I hadn't seen these people since. But now, they were sitting together drinking, their familiarity with each other as unchanged as before. I subconsciously tightened the plate I was holding, a wave of unease rising in my chest. My feet felt glued to the floor, unable to move. The truth. What truth? There was a brief silence in the room, before Lin Siyu's mocking voice came out. In the past few days, I've already gotten tired of acting. I didn't expect that even after fooling him into thinking I went bankrupt, he still refuses to divorce. He's like an indelible leech, disgusting. Laughter erupted from the room, and my heart sank. Lin's bankruptcy was fake. I heard that Shushur Fong has been working 3 jobs every day to help you pay off your debts. If he finds out that your bankruptcy was a lie, and that you only wanted to use it to get him to file for the divorce, his expression would be hilarious. Har har har. He doesn't know that your bankruptcy is fake, right? Otherwise, how could he not realize that you owe over $1 billion and still refuse to leave you? He probably still hopes that Siyu will make a comeback. He's working hard, but it's all for show. Just wait, 3 months is his limit. He won't last much longer. They began betting on how long I could hold out, and I didn't stick around to hear more. After delivering the wine to the customers, I quit my job. The manager was somewhat dissatisfied. After all, this was my 3rd day on the job. This was my 4th part-time job, and I hadn't told Lin Siyu about it. When I was working 3 jobs before, she had told me that I didn't have to work so hard. She would also try to earn money to pay off the debts. I didn't want to worry her, so I didn't tell her. Now, I'm glad I didn't or I wouldn't have learned the truth. I never would have known she had come to despise me to this extent, using bankruptcy as a tool to force me to initiate the divorce. When she saw me carefully putting the money from my part-time jobs into a piggy bank every day, she must have been laughing at me in her heart. I also felt stupid. I actually believed her bankruptcy story, thinking I could work hard to pay off her debts. I even foolishly thought I could spend my life with her. After leaving the bar, I went straight back to my rental apartment. Since she said she went bankrupt, I rented a small room with a few thousand cash I had left. Lin Siyu and I had been childhood sweethearts, our parents were good friends and neighbors. From kindergarten to high school, we were in the same class. Whenever our elders sat together to eat and chat, they always joked about setting up a marriage contract for us. When I was young, I believed we would definitely get married when we grew up. She had always been kind to me, at least until Chen Xiao appeared. The first time I fought was for her, the first time I skipped school was for her, and the first time I argued with my elders was for her. At that time, her eyes always had a shine when she looked at me. When I asked her why she was so good to me, I said she was my future wife, and anyone who bullied her was bullying me. She got angry and embarrassed, saying she didn't want to marry me. Because of a poor performance in the college entrance exam, we didn't attend the same university. On the day we were registering, she hugged me at the airport and warned me not to look at any other girls. She said after graduation, we would get married. I kept my promise and rejected all girls who showed interest in me, but she fell in love with Chen Xiao in university. We slowly became like 2 parallel lines, never intersecting again. I thought we would become strangers, and that when we saw each other in the future, we would just exchange greetings and pass by. But in my senior year, a car accident took the lives of my parents. I began learning to manage the company. The death of my parents and the trouble from shareholders felt like 2 mountains pressing down on me, nearly crushing me. I wasn't doing well at that time. Lin's grandfather asked Lin Siu to come back and accompany me, and also considered having us get married. After all, if I married Lin Siu, I would have the Lin family backing me, and the company shareholders wouldn't dare to target me too much. At first, Lin Siu refused adamantly. I knew she had someone else in her heart and didn't want to hold her back. Later, something happened between her and Chen Xiao, and they broke up. During that time, she drank heavily, and whenever she came home, Lin's grandfather would scold her, then lock her in the house, not allowing her to go out. Every time, she would be obedient for a few days before going back to drinking. One time, after getting drunk, the security guard called me to pick her up. Since then, every time she got drunk, the security guard would call me. Later, one time, she got so drunk that she mistook me for Chen Xiao. That day, my uncle came to their house causing a scene, and I was in a bad mood, so I drank a little too. I couldn't control myself. Not long after, I don't know how, but Lin's grandfather found out about it. He forced me to get a marriage certificate with Lin Siu. At that point, Lin Siu had given up, so she agreed. And I thought that since she was no longer with Chen Xiao, after we got married, I would spend my whole life treating her well, not letting her be sad. After marriage, Lin Siu was good to me, but seeing how passionate she had been with Chen Xiao, it was clear that what she felt for me was more of a sense of responsibility. I don't know when she reconnected with Chen Xiao, I just never imagined that she would use this method to force me to divorce. To make up for what she called their deficit, I even sold off the Shu family assets that my parents had left me and gave all the money to her, only to be repaid with her betrayal. If she had just told me the truth, I wouldn't have pestered her. Even if I loved her, I wasn't stupid enough to lose my self-respect and shamelessly cling to her. Around midnight, Lin Siu finally came back. She had changed into the t-shirt and jeans she had worn before going out, the ones I bought for 40 yuan at a wholesale market. Before, she only wore custom-made or haute couture dresses. She would never have looked at such cheap street clothes. These 3 months of her enduring this kind of hard life must have been really tough on her. Seeing that I was still awake, she seemed surprised. "Why aren't you sleeping? Waiting for me?" "I just finished my part-time job, and I brought some late-night snacks. Do you want some?" I looked at her indifferently, trying to find even a hint of guilt in her eyes, but there was none. She was calm. I really wanted to ask her if it had been fun to deceive me for 3 months. But asking would be pointless. She opened the foam food container, skillfully unwrapped the disposable chopsticks, and handed them to me. The smell of stir-fried rice noodles filled the cramped rental room. I lowered my gaze to her hand holding the chopsticks, blinked, and suppressed the bitterness rising in my heart. "Lin Siu, let us divorce." Clatter. The chopsticks in her hand fell to the floor, and the smile on her face froze. I didn't understand why she looked so incredulous and confused. She had always despised me. I thought that if I asked for a divorce, she would feel relieved. Now, she was acting like this. Who was she pretending for? Is it because the Lin family went bankrupt that you don't want to live this kind of hard life with me? Looking at the hurt in her eyes, I almost wanted to laugh, but my eyes turned red. It was her pretending to be bankrupt to force me to initiate the divorce. Now, I was giving her what she wanted, but she was turning it around, making it seem like I was disgusted by her poverty. "Lin Siu, don't you think what you're doing right now is disgusting? I never thought that the person who once held my hand and said we would never separate would turn into this. She could love Chen Xiao, that was fine. She could divorce me and be with him, that was fine too. But she shouldn't have used such despicable means to force me to file for the divorce, so she could walk away from me without any burden and be with Chen Xiao." Her pupils suddenly contracted, and she grabbed my hand in anger, her eyes filled with fury and confrontation. "Sure or phone, when I went bankrupt, it was you who said that no matter how hard life gets, you would stay with me. Now, just 3 months later, you're showing your true colors and calling me disgusting." I shook her off, stepped back, and coldly looked at her. "I did say that, but the reality is, you didn't go bankrupt. You pretended to go bankrupt just to force me to play the bad guy, to file for divorce, so your little guilt would vanish without a trace. Isn't that right? Doesn't the way you've schemed against me make you disgusting?" Lin Siu's face darkened, and she opened her mouth as if wanting to argue, but in the end, she just fell silent. This face I once looked at with affection, now I didn't even want to glance at it again. "Move out tonight. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., I'll be waiting for you at the Civil Affairs Bureau. I won't take a single cent from the Lin family's assets. I only want you share, which my parents left me. If I'm not mistaken, the person who secretly bought it when I sold off Shusha was you, right? Seeing her remain silent, I lost my patience and directly contacted Chen Xiao to come pick her up, asking him to bring a change of clothes for her. Chen Xiao was a smart person, and naturally understood that me contacting him meant I was giving Lin Xiu an ultimatum. Less than half an hour later, he arrived. Seeing him so impeccably dressed, with all branded items, even his handbag was an LV, I felt even more ridiculous for working multiple jobs every day for the past 3 months. I also felt even more disgusted with Lin Xiu. She had treated Chen Xiao so well, but if it weren't for her, Chen Xiao would probably be working 10 jobs a day and still wouldn't he be able to afford all those clothes or the $1 million handbag in his hand. I looked at Lin Xiu, trying my best to control my voice so it wouldn't tremble. That outfit you're wearing now, I bought it. Change and leave. After saying that, I turned and left the rental apartment. Soon, Chen Xiao came out as well. See you, she just didn't know how to tell you, so she came up with this plan, hoping you'd divorce her voluntarily. Our intention was never to hurt you. I turned to look at him, my gaze sliding over his flawless white hands, and then I sarcastically smiled, holding my own rough, calloused hands in front of him. I really wanted to know, how could he say those words, we didn't want to hurt you? Is this what you call not wanting to hurt me? For the past 3 months, I'd only been sleeping for hours a night. When I wasn't sleeping, I was either working or on my way to work. To save 2 yuan on bus fare, I walked back and forth to 2 part-time jobs, both 5 kilometers away, every day. At first, my feet were covered in blisters, I endured the pain and popped them, and after about half a month, I developed calluses and the blisters stopped. Now, all these efforts had turned into a joke. From the beginning, Lin Xiu and Chen Xiao had been watching me, mocking me, betting on when I would eventually give up and leave her. But I had never imagined that my love for her would one day become the weapon she used to hurt me. Chen Xiao bit his lip and lowered his gaze. Mr. Xu, I'm sorry, but Xiu and I are in true love. I couldn't suppress the anger in my heart any longer, and coldly stared at him. True love? Do you think your disgusting actions will look noble if you disguise them as true love? If you could honestly admit that you're scheming to force me to leave, maybe I'd even look at you in a better light. Chen Xiao furrowed his brow, about to retort, but his gaze suddenly shifted to behind me. See you. His expression changed to one of helplessness, and his eyes seemed to hold a bit of grievance. Mr. Xu, he misunderstood us. You should explain to him, we never meant to hurt him. Lin Xiu appeared in a haute couture long dress, her figure hot, her beauty so captivating that it was almost impossible to look away. It was a far cry from the woman wearing the cheap t-shirt and jeans from before. This was the person she should have been, yet I only felt estranged. She walked up to Chen Xiao and blocked my view. This is my decision, it has nothing to do with a Xiao. If you want to blame someone, blame me. Seeing her protect Chen Xiao, afraid I might do something to him, my heart felt like it was being tightly squeezed by a rope, the pain unbearable. Look at that. When it came to the people she cared about, she would never let anyone hurt them. As for me, I had long been excluded from that list. It was fine though. At least now I wouldn't harbor any more expectations for her, and I wouldn't remain trapped in the beautiful memories of the past. I took a deep breath and slowly said, I should blame you. The moment the words left my mouth, I raised my hand and slapped her across the face. Because I had used too much force, my hand tingled slightly, and a slap mark appeared on Lin Xiu's once flawless face. See you? Chen Xiao grabbed her anxiously, his gaze now filled with fury as he looked at me. I rubbed my tingling hand and looked at Lin Xiu expressionlessly. You deceived me for 3 months. I gave you a slap, and that's settling the score. Sure a phone, don't you think you're going too far? No one has ever dared to lay a hand on Xiu. I looked at him coldly. Has anyone told you that no one has ever dared to play me like this? Back when my parents were still alive, I was practically reckless. Everyone around knew I had a bad temper, and few dared to provoke me. After they died in a car crash, I had mellowed out over the years, but that didn't mean I didn't have a temper. Chen Xiao furrowed his brow, about to speak, but Lin Xiu stopped him. Under the dim streetlights, her expression was unreadable. Xiao, stop talking. But it's my fault. After this slap, I owe him nothing. Let us go. Chen Xiao cast a reluctant glance at me, but in the end, he said nothing and followed Lin Xiu away. I turned and went back to the rental apartment, clearing out everything related to Lin Xiu and throwing it all in the trash. It was bad luck to keep it. By the time I finished, it was already past 6 a.m., and the sky had started to lighten. I decided not to sleep, grabbed my ID card, household registration book, and marriage certificate, and went straight to the Civil Affairs Bureau to wait. At 8 a.m., Lin Xiu arrived right on time. I didn't want to waste any more words with her and simply turned and walked into the Civil Affairs Bureau. The divorce process was smooth. Aside from the company my parents left me, Lin Xiu also gave me several million yuan and 2 villas. I accepted it, turned around, and donated the money to a foundation. It was the least I could do. After receiving the divorce certificate, I was about to leave the Civil Affairs Bureau and hail a taxi when she suddenly called out to me. "I'm sorry for lying to you before." She spoke with sincerity, her expression filled with regret. "You don't need to apologize. When I slapped you last night, we're even." She furrowed her brow, as if she wanted to say something, but then her gaze froze. Following her gaze, I looked down and noticed I was still wearing the silver ring she had given me. This ring was the one she bought at a night market for 52 yuan after I sold our wedding ring to pay off debt. At the time, I didn't want to buy it, thinking it was a waste of money, but she insisted, telling me seriously that she would replace the original wedding ring in the future. I was so touched, believing my efforts over the years had finally made her fall in love with me again. Later, I treated that ring like a treasure, carefully polishing it every night before going to bed. At that time, she must have been secretly mocking me for being so foolish. Now that I think about it, I was indeed pitifully naive, believing whatever others said. I lowered my gaze, took off the ring, and casually tossed it into the trash can nearby. Don't misunderstand, I just forgot to throw it out while cleaning up last night. Her lips moved, and her expression became a bit obscure. I furrowed my brows, seeing that she wanted to say something but stopped, feeling confused. She had divorced me. Wasn't she supposed to feel relieved and go celebrate with Chen Xiao? Why did she look like someone owed her millions? I didn't bother with her anymore and was about to hail a cab when suddenly a red Lamborghini stopped in front of me. Inside the car, Zhao Xuefei had a joyful expression. "Sure or phone, congratulations on escaping the misery. You might want to consider me for your second marriage." Lin Xiu's face darkened, and she coldly looked at her. "Zhao Xuefei, there's a limit to jokes, you know." Zhao Xuefei and I had been in the same class since elementary school. We were originally good friends, but she and Lin Xiu had fallen out in middle school for some unknown reason, becoming bitter enemies who always found fault with each other. Over the years, they had constantly clashed in business. Today, you steal my client, tomorrow, I expose your dirty secrets. It was a constant battle, like they were out to destroy each other. I hardly interacted with her, so how would she know I had divorced Lin Xiu? Before I could figure it out, Zhao Xuefei continued, "Lin Xiu, you know I'm not joking." With that, she got out of the car and walked up to me. "Sure or phone, although this might be too soon, if you're willing to marry me, we can go in and get our marriage certificate right now." I was taken aback for a moment and then became speechless. "Miss Zhao, I'm very busy and don't have time to play these childish games with you." "Who said I'm playing a game?" She handed me her household registration book and said, quite seriously, "I'm serious. I've liked you since middle school, and my feelings have never changed." I furrowed my brows, highly doubting the truth of her words. If she said she was just trying to annoy Lin Xiu, I might have believed it. But saying she liked me since middle school? I didn't notice the slightest hint of that. Lin Xiu's emotions flared up, and she slapped Zhao Xuefei. The two quickly started fighting. I tried to stop them a few times but didn't succeed, and frankly, I didn't want to deal with it anymore, so I hailed a cab and left. After all, no one was going to die from this. Besides, two women fighting in broad daylight at the Civil Affairs Bureau wasn't something I wanted to be involved in. It'd be embarrassing for me to stand there as a grown man. Lin Xiu moved quickly. Within a few days, she returned the company to me. She didn't come in person but sent a lawyer to deliver the papers. That was fine by me. I didn't want to see her either. After taking over the company again, I was busy every day, barely having time to breathe. Life became far more fulfilling than before. If Zhao Shuefei hadn't started pestering me, I felt like my life would have been much happier. Ever since I divorced Lin Siyu, Zhao Shuefei had been frequently waiting for me downstairs at the company. Sometimes she'd invite me out for dinner, other times she'd use business cooperation as an excuse to subtly express her desire to be with me. After being harassed for half a month, I couldn't take it anymore. The next time she came, I stopped her. Zhao Shuefei, we need to talk. She raised an eyebrow. Sure, are we talking about a relationship? I sighed, looking at her seriously. You need to stop bothering me. Even if you really liked me back in middle school, we're adults now, and I've changed a lot. Have you considered that maybe what you like isn't me, but just the feeling? Zhao Shuefei frowned. What feeling? You like the me from the past, but I'm no longer that boy from middle school. Do you understand? She nodded. I understand, but whether it was the old you or the current you, I still like you. I'm sure I want to spend my life with you. No one else will do. Her eyes were full of sincerity, and for a moment, my heart skipped a beat. I understood now. She really liked me. But no matter how sincere the feelings, they couldn't withstand the test of time. Lin Siyu had once looked at me with the same eyes, and in the end, she easily fell in love with another man. Even if you truly like me, we. Before I could finish my sentence, Zhao Shuefei interrupted. Sure or phone, I know you haven't gotten over your last failed relationship, so I'm willing to wait. If you're afraid I'll scheme like Lin Siyu, I can transfer all my assets to your name. If I betray you, you can have me leave with nothing. Seeing that she seemed genuinely serious, I quickly refused, no need. Let me be clear, I don't like you. Right now, managing the company my parents left me is the most important thing. I'm not thinking about relationships. Zhao Shuefei nodded. I understand. And I've said I'll wait. I just hope that if you ever decide to date, I'll be your first choice. Meeting her gentle and loving gaze, I found myself momentarily at a loss for words, unable to refuse her. After a long silence, I finally told her that I hoped she would come to my company less often, as it had begun to affect my normal life. Zhao Shuefei agreed, and from that day onward, she stopped coming every day. However, she began sending me updates on her schedule through WeChat. Today's meeting is so boring, I want to see you. I'm on a business trip in City A, it's raining here, thinking of you, I'll bring you some local specialties when I return. I can't sleep because I miss you so much, can you send me a picture of yourself? I might not sleep tonight without seeing you. There were so many similar messages that I lost count. At first, I was speechless, but after just 3 days, I had learned to ignore them. I began to suspect that she had somehow changed, because in my impression, Zhao Shuefei was a strong, no-nonsense businesswoman who took over her family's enterprise at the age of 23. Her personality didn't match the image of the person sending me those messages on WeChat. But despite bombarding me with messages, Zhao Shuefei helped me several times when I nearly made mistakes managing the company. Gradually, our relationship began to improve, almost as if it had returned to the time before she and Lin Siyu had fallen out in middle school. However, I still had no intention of being with her. After all, I had tasted the bitterness of love once before, and I wasn't eager to repeat it. A month later, I met Lin Siyu again. Grandpa Lin found out about our divorce and was so upset that he was hospitalized. Reluctantly, she contacted me. Though I didn't want to see Lin Siyu, Grandpa Lin had always treated me well, so I felt obligated to visit him. When I arrived at the hospital room, both Lin Siyu and Chen Xiao were there. Chen Xiao looked dejected, while Lin Siyu was comforting him. I knocked on the door, and only after Grandpa Lin knew it was me did he allow me in. It was then that I learned the truth. Lin Siyu and Chen Xiao had been shopping when they accidentally ran into Grandpa Lin. He thought Lin Siyu was cheating on me and angrily accused Chen Xiao of ruining other people's marriages. Lin Siyu couldn't stand seeing Chen Xiao being wronged, so she told him about our divorce. Seeing that Grandpa Lin was still upset, I quickly tried to calm him down. Once his emotions stabilized, I stood up, preparing to leave. Shuofen, is it true that your divorce has nothing to do with that man? Seeing the pained look in Grandpa Lin's eyes, I felt a wave of grievance and almost felt the urge to tell him everything. But I couldn't. Grandpa Lin's health wasn't good, and he had always doted on Lin Siyu. If he knew the truth, it would break his heart, and I feared that his health wouldn't withstand the shock. Besides, what had passed between Lin Siyu and me was already over. There was no need to bring it up again and cause Grandpa Lin more pain. I forced a smile and nodded. Yes, she and Mr. Chen got together after we divorced. Siyu and I parted on good terms. We no longer had feelings for each other, and staying together would only cause more pain for both of us. We weren't meant to be, and I have a new girlfriend now. When the time is right, I'll bring her to meet you. Grandpa Lin looked at me for a long time, finally letting out a deep sigh. All right, I'm old now. I can't meddle in the affairs of young people. Do as you please. As I was leaving the hospital room, Lin Siyu quietly said, "Thank you." She must have heard everything I said to Grandpa Lin. No need to thank me. I didn't reveal the truth, I just didn't want Grandpa Lin to be further distressed. It has nothing to do with you. Lin Siyu nodded, her eyes flickering with a mix of emotions. I know. Are you in a relationship? I furrowed my brows. That's personal, and I don't think it's necessary to tell you. Sorry. Now that Grandpa Lin's emotions have stabilized, I need to go back to the company. I'll leave now. With that, I turned and walked away. Since that day, Lin Siyu and Chen Xiao started dating openly, no longer hiding their relationship. I tried to ignore them, but they frequently appeared in the entertainment news headlines, and even my colleagues at the company started discussing them. Chen Xiao liked to watch the river view, so Lin Siyu spent millions buying a riverside villa for him just so he could see the view as soon as he woke up. Chen Xiao was a fan of a particular celebrity, and on their birthday, Lin Siyu bought every advertisement screen in the city to celebrate, just to make him smile. Chen Xiao had health issues, and Lin Siyu climbed to the top of Mount Everest, carving SY on a rock to pray for him. Hearing these things didn't surprise me. When she loved someone, she always gave her all. Just like when we were young, she would brave the rain to buy me my favorite dumplings when I was sick, softly coaxing me to take medicine though she couldn't swim. She still went scuba diving with me to see the almost unreal underwater world. She hated crowds, but would confess her feelings for me in the middle of a bustling crowd. Youthful love is passionate and sincere, but fleeting. After it burns out, only ashes remain, scattered by the wind. One rainy night, I unexpectedly saw Lin Siyu's car parked downstairs at my place. I was woken by thunder, remembered that I had left the living room window open, and as I went to close it, a lightning strike illuminated the red Ferrari parked below. Recognizing the car as Lin Siyu's, I frowned but didn't pay it much attention. After closing the window, I went back to bed. However, over the next few weeks, I noticed her car parked downstairs almost 3 or 4 nights a week. Once or twice could have been a coincidence, but after so many times, I couldn't help but wonder if she was doing it on purpose. She was already openly with Chen Xiao, now why was she coming to my building at midnight? I took a photo of the car and sent it to a friend in the industry, asking him to forward it to Chen Xiao. Before long, the car left. For the next period of time, Lin Siyu's car never appeared downstairs again. I thought the matter was over, but then Chen Xiao suddenly contacted me. Mr. Xu, I shouldn't be coming to you, but after thinking about it for a long time, I feel I need to explain on behalf of Siyu. She came to find you because she wanted you to visit Grandpa Lin, but because of the past, she has always felt guilty about you. I frowned and interrupted him. What's wrong with Grandpa Lin? Chen Xiao sighed deeply and said slowly, his health has been deteriorating, and he was hospitalized half a month ago. The doctor said he probably only has about a month left. When I arrived at the hospital, Lin Siyu was feeding Grandpa Lin. It hadn't been long since I last saw him, but he had already lost a lot of weight, and his spirit seemed much weaker. A heavy feeling sank in my chest, and my vision blurred. Since my parents passed away, Grandpa Lin had been the one who treated me the best. But after my divorce with Lin Siyu, I had avoided visiting him to keep from seeing her. I hadn't even known he was hospitalized until someone told me. Choking up, I walked over to him. Grandpa Lin. Shuofeng, you're here. Why are your eyes so red? Did something happen? I shook my head, forcing my tears back. A man shouldn't cry easily, and I didn't want to upset Grandpa Lin again. Grandpa Lin glared at Lin Siyu, annoyed. Isn't it you again, making Shuofeng angry? Otherwise, why would he look so upset? I thought Lin Siyu would argue back, but instead, she looked at me with complex emotions in her eyes. I took a deep breath to calm myself and looked at Grandpa Lin. Grandpa Lin, she didn't make me angry. It's just that I haven't seen you in a long time. I miss you. Sitting down beside the bed, looking at Grandpa Lin's thin appearance, I couldn't suppress the sadness in my heart. Thinking that he only had 1 month to live, I regretted not visiting him more often. After Grandpa Lin finished his meal and went to bed, Lin Siu and I walked out of the ward. In the quiet corridor, I looked at her coldly and lowered my voice and said, "Why didn't you tell me that Grandpa Lin was sick?" Lin Siu's face was gloomy, and she lowered her eyes and looked at me. "We are divorced, I don't want to trouble you anymore. Don't you think you are selfish to do this?" Grandpa Lin also watched me grow up. "I am divorced from you, but I have a clear distinction between you and others. I will not vent my anger on others because of you." Lin Siu pursed her lips, looked at me and said nothing. I took a deep breath to calm down, and said indifferently, "I know you don't want to see me, and neither do I, but Grandpa Lin doesn't have much time left. I plan to come and accompany him every day in the future. Please arrange the time. Although I no longer love Lin Siu, I can't bear to see her and Chen Xiao hanging around in front of me, and I have to pretend that nothing happened. I don't want to see you." I couldn't help but frown at her ambiguous words. "It's up to you, anyway. I hope that when I come to see Grandpa Lin, you and Chen Xiao won't appear in front of me." Lin Siu fell silent, and after a while she spoke. "When you want to come to see Grandpa, send me a message, and I will arrange the time." "Okay." I pulled Lin Siu out of the blacklist, and then, except for sending her a message in advance when I went to see Grandpa Lin every day, we didn't have any intersection. One day a month later, when I was walking with Grandpa Lin in the garden downstairs of the inpatient department, he suddenly said, "Shuofan, I have something to tell you." I walked to Grandpa Lin and squatted down, smiling a little reluctantly. "Grandpa Lin, what do you want to say?" In the past month, he has never spoken to me in such a serious tone. Grandpa Lin had a kind smile on his face. "Shuofan, I know I don't have much time left. I'm very happy that you came to see me every day this month." A trace of panic rose in my heart. I tried my best to act calm this month, but at this moment, the huge sadness seemed to drown me. Chapter 6. Grandpa Lin, don't say that. Your health will definitely get better. Grandpa Lin shook his head, his face was calm. "I know my own body. I have lived to such an old age, and I have no regrets. The only thing I can't let go is you. Even if you don't say it, I know very well that it was Siu who let you down, so I have always refused to accept that man. You and Siu are not destined to be together, but I have always regarded you as my grandson, and I hope you can meet someone who really treats you well in the future. Grandpa Lin. Listen to me." He took out a bank card from his pocket and handed it to me, saying softly, "This is a little gift I prepared for my granddaughter-in-law. I probably won't be able to see your wedding." My eyes were blurred, and I shook my head. "Grandpa Lin, I don't want it." "Be good, accept it. This is a little gift from an old man like me. If you don't accept it, I will be angry." Under Grandpa Lin's insistence, I still accepted the card. Grandpa Lin finally smiled, as if he had resolved a matter, and the wrinkles on his forehead were stretched out. At 11:15 p.m., Grandpa Lin passed away peacefully. The moment he left, I knew that the last relative in this world had also left. I should be very sad, but it was as if I had lost all my emotions, just standing numbly aside, as if everything had nothing to do with me. On the day of the funeral, Zhao Shufa accompanied me. In the portrait, Grandpa Lin smiled kindly, just like when I went to the Lin family to find Lin Siu before. But I know that I can never go back. Lin Siu was dressed in black, looked haggard, and had dark eyes. It looked like she hadn't slept for several days. Chen Xiao stood beside her, helping her from time to time to prevent her from falling suddenly. After the funeral, I was depressed for a while, and I didn't want to do anything except work all day. Until one day a month later, Zhao Shufa ran to my house and pulled me up, with anger on her face. "Shu Shufeng, Grandpa Lin has passed away. This is an unchangeable fact. How long will you be depressed? He wouldn't want to see you like this." I smiled bitterly. "I know, but I just can't accept it." She grabbed my shoulders, stared into my eyes and said word by word, "No one can accept the sudden departure of their loved ones, but they have to accept it because they have to move on." I pushed her away and didn't want to say anything. I understand all the truth she said, but I couldn't get excited about anything. Grandpa Lin was so good to me, but I became estranged from him because of Lin Siu. How sad he must have been during that time, but he never looked for me, nor did he let Lin Siu look for me. In his last moments, he left me a legacy. But what did I do? I obviously had time to spend more time with him, but I didn't do it. The more I thought about it, the sadder I felt, and tears kept pouring out of my eyes. Zhao Shuefei hugged me, patted my back gently and said softly, "Shu Shufeng, cry, it's okay after crying. It takes a lifetime to let go of the departure of relatives, but you have to understand that no one can accompany you for a lifetime." I hugged her and cried loudly. I knew that they could not accompany me for a lifetime. What made me sad was that I always cherished them after losing them. However, it was too late. After crying for a long time, my depressed mood during this period was relieved a lot, and my mood was not as low as before. She accompanied me for an afternoon, and finally felt relieved when she saw that my mood was gradually stabilizing. Is it not so sad after crying? I shook my head. It's still very sad, but I know that I really want to come out, because you are right, Grandpa Lin would not want to see me like this. As long as you are willing to come out. Zhao Shuefei looked at me with encouragement and tenderness in her eyes. My face was unconsciously a little hot, and my heartbeat also showed signs of imbalance. I turned my head away quickly, thinking about what to say. Suddenly, my stomach growled at an inopportune time. Me? What a shame. Zhao Shuefei was stunned for a moment, then whispered, "You take a rest on the sofa, I'll make you something to eat." Okay. She cooked very quickly, and in less than half an hour, she served 2 dishes and a soup, and they were delicious and completely different from the dark cuisine I had imagined before. After washing my hands, I sat down on the chair and looked at her and said, "I didn't expect you to be such a good cook." She served me a bowl of rice with a smile on her face. "Have you forgotten that I went abroad for 3 years when I was in college? The food outside is too bad, so I can only cook for myself, and gradually I will learn to cook." I recalled it, and it seemed to be true. It's just that at that time, because of Lin Xiu, I hadn't contacted her for a long time. When I learned the news, she had been abroad for half a year. Well, I remember it. After dinner, I stood up and stopped her from cleaning up the dishes. "I can do it myself. I have already troubled you a lot today. How can I let you wash the dishes?" Zhao Shuefei smiled and said, "If you feel embarrassed to rest on the sofa, make me a cup of coffee. I saw that you have a coffee machine." There is indeed a coffee machine, but I haven't used it for a long time. I nodded. "Okay, I'll clean the coffee machine first." "I can do it, you go to grind the coffee beans first." Under her insistence, I had to grind the coffee beans. I took the coffee beans out of the jar. When I ground them, the aroma of coffee overflowed, and I also wanted to drink coffee. When I made 2 cups of coffee, Zhao Shuefei just put the last bowl of rice on the bowl rack. Looking back and seeing me holding 2 cups of coffee, she smiled and said, "I have smelled the aroma of coffee a long time ago." I handed one of the cups to her, and I suddenly felt embarrassed. I haven't made coffee for a long time. It may not taste good. She took it and took a sip, and her face suddenly became serious. I was a little embarrassed. Is it really unpalatable? Or just pour it out? I reached out to take the coffee from her hand and pour it out, but she took the coffee away and said seriously, "With your skills, don't you really consider opening a coffee shop?" Seeing the mischievous smile in her eyes, I realized that she had fooled me just now. I looked at her unhappily. "You looked so bad just now, I thought it was unpalatable." "Har har, I just wanted to tease you." Boring. I walked quickly towards the living room with the coffee in my hand, but a smile unconsciously appeared on the corner of my mouth. I can't remember how long it has been since I have been so relaxed with someone, and this feeling is really good. Our relationship has been gradually warming up during this period, and we are just about to break the window paper between us. I feel that our relationship may go further tonight, so I dressed up carefully. Sure enough, after dinner, she asked me to close my eyes. When I opened my eyes again, she stood in front of me with a beautiful box in her hand. "Shu Shufeng, I originally planned to confess to you after a while, but I can't wait. Can you give me a chance to let me be your girlfriend?" Her dark eyes stared at me tightly, and her eyes were full of seriousness, as if there were thousands of stars. "I know that you have been hurt before and are afraid of being hurt again, but what I want to tell you is that the woman who doesn't love you is wrong, not love. I hope to make you feel the beauty of this world again, and I hope you can have the ability to love again. It doesn't matter if you don't agree. I will continue to stay with you until you are willing to come to me." Her words touched me to pieces. I can feel her cherishment of me during this period. Perhaps, I really should give myself a chance. I was about to nod when Lin Xiu suddenly rushed out from nowhere and slapped Zhao Xuefei in the face. Before I could react, the two of them started fighting. Chen Xiao, who was not far away, seemed to be frightened by this scene as well, and stood there with an ugly face. I hurried forward to separate the two of them, and pulled Zhao Xuefei behind me to prevent Lin Xiu from having any chance to hurt her. Are you okay? Zhao Xuefei shook her head, wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, and looked coldly at Lin Xiu opposite her. Lin Xiu, if you want to go crazy, go to the mental hospital. Besides, I will call the police for what happened tonight. Lin Xiu sneered, do you think I'm afraid? Zhao Xuefei, I warned you to stay away from Xu Shufeng. I frowned when I heard this, turned my head and looked at Lin Xiu coldly. What qualifications do you have to say this? You and I have divorced a long time ago, and now we are two strangers who have nothing to do with each other. Do you have to see me living a bad life to be happy? Lin Xiu looked at me in disbelief and said anxiously, Xu Shufeng, I just don't want you to get hurt. Do you know that Zhao Xuefei had more than a dozen boyfriends when she was abroad? I took a deep breath. It doesn't matter if she has 100 boyfriends, and aren't you the one who hurt me the most? Her face changed, and she opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something, but Chen Xiao next to her suddenly grabbed her sleeve. See you. Lin Xiu turned her head and saw him. Her face changed, but in the end she said nothing. I was too lazy to look at the two of them, so I took Zhao Xuefei to the hospital. After treating the wound, Zhao Xuefei suddenly looked at me and said, Xu Shufeng, I'm going to call the police to teach her a lesson. If you still. I interrupted her, I have no feelings for her, just do what you want. Okay. After calling the police, Lin Xiu and Chen Xiao arrived at the police station soon. The wound on Lin Xiu's face had been treated, and she was gloomy and was taken by the police to take a statement. In the end, the matter ended with Lin Xiu paying Zhao Xuefei 500,000 medical expenses and mental damages. When she came out, her eyes fell on me and stared at me closely, which was very creepy. Zhao Xuefei stepped forward and blocked me. Lin Xiu, you stare at my boyfriend, it doesn't seem good, right? Boyfriend. Lin Xiu's voice seemed to have been soaked in ice water, with a bone-chilling chill. Zhao Xuefei chuckled, yes, on their way to the police station just now, he just agreed to be with me. Are you dissatisfied? He can't fall in love with you. Lin Xiu said confidently, but I couldn't help but feel angry when I heard it, and walked out from behind Zhao Xuefei. Lin Xiu, you are not me, how do you know it's impossible? You can't fall in love with anyone else except me. The fact is, I have fallen in love with her, and I'm not so cheap that I will always love someone who tramples on my feelings. After saying that, I pulled Zhao Xuefei away. After sending me home, Zhao Xuefei went back. The next morning, as soon as I opened the door, I saw someone standing at the door of my house. I was startled, and when I looked closely, I found that it was Lin Xiu, and I couldn't help frowning. She held a cigarette in her hand, and her expression was blurred in the smoke, and she exuded a decadent atmosphere. Lin Xiu, are you sick? Why are you standing guard at my door so early in the morning? Leave immediately or I will call the police. Perhaps my face was too cold. Lin Xiu looked a little hurt. She put out her cigarette, took 2 steps towards me, and stopped when she saw my alert expression. Xu Shufeng, I'm sorry, I just don't know where else to go except here. Her bitter expression made me feel ridiculous. If I remember correctly, you and Chen Xiao are already engaged, and you will get married soon. Your long-cherished wish has been fulfilled, what else is there to be dissatisfied with? Lin Xiu smiled bitterly. I also thought that I would be happy with our Xiao, but after being with him, the scenes of us being together often appeared in my mind, and I. Stop. I interrupted her coldly, so what you mean now is that when you are with me, you think about Chen Xiao, and after being with Chen Xiao, you think about me. I think she doesn't like me or Chen Xiao, she just misses her ex out of habit. I can't help but feel physically nauseous when I think about how I have loved such a woman for so many years. How can she be so disgusting? Lin Xiu looked at me with regret in her eyes. Xu Shufeng, after Grandpa passed away, I realized that you are the most important person to me. I was just infatuated with the Xiao, and I was greedy for his passion and unrestrainedness, so I missed you. I don't care if you were infatuated or not, we are divorced, please take your self-righteous feelings and go away, I don't want to see you again. I once wanted to be with her for the rest of my life, but she disappointed and despaired me again and again. That feeling was too painful. I don't want to experience it again in my life. Besides, as early as the moment I knew that she pretended to be bankrupt in order to divorce me, my feelings for her turned to ashes. Lin Siyu didn't move, her lips trembled, and after several seconds she whispered, "Shu phone, I have never told anyone that the few months I lived with you in the rental house were the happiest time of my life." Par. I raised my hand and slapped her. If she didn't mention it, I might not have hit her. But how could she be so shameless? Does she know what that period meant to me? Do you think that period was the happiest? Then have you ever thought about how it felt to work 3 jobs a day, not even willing to take the $2 bus, and walk to and from each place where I worked every day? That period was the darkest and most painful time for me, not because I was either working or on the way to work every day, but because I treated you with my heart, but you threw my heart on the ground and trampled on it. If I could, I really hope to go back to the day when I graduated from high school, when you told me to wait for you. This time, I would refuse without hesitation. Lin Siyu's eyes flashed with heartache and regret, and she looked at me with scarlet eyes. Shu phone, I'm sorry, I did do a lot of wrong things, I already know I was wrong, you hit me, as long as you don't leave me, I'm willing to do anything. Her regretful look at this moment is what I wanted to see. But now, there is no fluctuation in my heart. Because I don't care about her anymore, and the harm she caused to me can't be undone, it's better to let myself go. Lin Siyu, it's not that I don't want you, it's you who didn't want me first, I'm tired of always waiting for you in the same place, that's all. Shu phone. If you pester me again, I will call Chen Xiao now. Lin Siyu looked at me with a wry smile, I care about you now. As soon as she finished speaking, a mocking voice came from behind her, my boyfriend, it seems that it is not your turn to care, and I have recorded what you said just now. If it gets out of hand, it will not be good for you and your company at all. Lin Siyu's face became extremely ugly, and she turned to look at Zhao Xuefei. Zhao Xuefei, you are not worthy of being with Shu phone at all. Zhao Xuefei ignored her, walked directly to my side and hugged my waist, sneering, if I am not worthy, who is worthy? You? Don't forget, you still have a fiancé now. A woman like you, who is looking at the pot while eating the bowl, deserves to be single for life. I can break off the engagement with a Xiao, the person I love is Shu phone. Zhao Xuefei had a mocking smile on her face, but her hand around my waist tightened unconsciously. She should be worried that I still have feelings for Lin Siyu. Then you should ask if Shu phone still likes you. Instantly, the two women's eyes fell on me. I frowned and looked at Lin Siyu. Her eyes were full of expectation and caution, but unfortunately, just like when I loved her, her expectations now could only be disappointed. Lin Siyu, I really don't love you anymore, not at all, and you don't have to disturb my current life anymore. Lin Siyu left in a daze. Zhao Xuefei let go of me and said seriously, how can you open the door for other women casually? What if she has bad intentions and slanders you for flirting with her? Seeing that her face was a little gloomy, I quickly explained, no, I didn't know she was outside. Besides, I have known Lin Siyu for so long, she shouldn't do such a thing. Next time you open the door, check if there is anyone outside first. If not, I will install a video doorbell for you. Zhao Xuefei is a man of action. She just said she would install a video doorbell for me in the morning, and it was installed when I got home from work in the evening. How is it? Is your girlfriend quick to do things? I nodded, it's really fast, and this video doorbell is very useful, you can directly see the panoramic view outside. Well, but I still don't think it's safe enough, how about I move in with you to protect you? Seeing her eager look, I rolled my eyes at her, your abacus can be heard by the moon. Har har har, just kidding, I plan to buy the house opposite yours, and then move to opposite you, so that I can get to you in time if you have any problems. Really? Well, but I haven't found the owner of the house opposite yet, and I should be able to buy it when I find it. After knowing Zhao Xuefei's plan, I often paid attention to whether anyone came to live in the house opposite, and asked the property management of the community, but the property management refused to tell me the information of the owner of the house opposite on the grounds that the privacy of the owner could not be disclosed. Half a month later, I finally knew who the owner of the house opposite was, but it was someone I didn't expect. Lin Siyu. Knowing that she bought the house opposite shortly after I moved here, I just felt annoyed. Does she think her current behavior is very affectionate? While being engaged to Chen Xiao, she ran to me and disgusted me. Does she think I have no temper? I took a deep breath and asked someone to tell Chen Xiao about Lin Siyu buying a house opposite my house. I don't believe he can still sit still like this. Sure enough, Chen Xiao soon found me. Mr. Xu, the house opposite you was indeed bought by Siyu, but this doesn't mean anything. She bought this house as our wedding house at that time. We didn't know you lived opposite. After all, who would ask who the neighbor opposite is when buying a house? Right? I looked at him indifferently and didn't say anything. He didn't care and continued, later, her grandfather was sick, and she wanted you to visit her grandfather. She asked someone to check your current address. We only knew that you bought the house opposite our wedding house, and then this house was shelved. If you don't believe it, I can take you to see it. There is no decoration inside. No need, I'm not curious, I just want to remind Mr. Chen to keep an eye on his fiancée. Chen Xiao smiled, don't worry, we have a good relationship. Really? Then Miss Chen, why don't you take a look at this? I put the screenshot of the surveillance video of Lin Xiu standing at the door of my house all night in front of him, and Chen Xiao's face suddenly became extremely ugly. Mr. Chen, I'm not interested in what happened between you and Lin Xiu. I just hope she won't come to my doorstep again, otherwise I'll have to call the police. Chen Xiao didn't say anything, his face was as pale as paper. I picked up my phone and left. As for how Chen Xiao quarreled with Lin Xiu, it had nothing to do with me. Although Lin Xiu and I were divorced, we had many overlapping friends in the circle, so we couldn't avoid meeting in some occasions. A week after I showed Chen Xiao the surveillance video, Zhao Xuefei and I met Chen Xiao and Lin Xiu at a party organized by friends in the circle. When Chen Xiao saw me, his smile froze, and his hand around Lin Xiu's waist tightened unconsciously. I saw it with my own eyes, and I couldn't help but sigh. During the years when I was married to Lin Xiu, every time I saw Chen Xiao, I was also so nervous. When Zhao Xuefei and I held hands, everyone started to make a fuss. Sure, Zhao Xuefei, I didn't expect your secret crush to come true, you're lucky. I'm so jealous, I confessed to my first love last year, but she's almost having her second child, it's all tears when I talk about it. Har har har, when she told me that she liked Xu Shufeng, I advised her to forget it. After all, Xu Shufeng's eyes were only chasing Lin Xiu at the time, but I didn't expect that after all these years, she actually chased Xu Shufeng. As soon as these words came out, the surroundings suddenly became quiet. Everyone's eyes fell on the four of us, and Lin Xiu and Chen Xiao looked very ugly. Zhao Xuefei leaned in my arms and smiled and said, yes, thanks to him for giving me this opportunity. Everyone around laughed, and the atmosphere seemed to have returned to the previous harmony. Soon, someone suggested playing Truth or Dare. I had no interest in this kind of game, but everyone participated, and it was boring for me to sit by and watch alone. At the beginning, I was lucky and often escaped. Not long after, the bottle of wine was in front of Lin Xiu. Truth or Dare. Lin Xiu was silent for a few seconds, and whispered, Truth or Dare. Har har har, then I won't be polite. Among the people present, is there anyone you can't forget? Lin Xiu's eyes suddenly looked in my direction. I frowned and resisted the urge to scold her. Yes. Is that person Chen Xiao? Lin Xiu looked indifferent, this is the second question. The bottle continued to turn, but I didn't expect it to stop in front of me in the next round. As expected, nothing good happened when I met Lin Xiu. This group of people played Dare very outrageously. I didn't want to go on stage and shout that Jiangnan Leather Factory was closed down and the boss ran away with his sister-in-law. I decisively chose Truth or Dare. Do you still have feelings for your ex? I rolled my eyes in my heart. This was obviously looking for trouble. I have a new girlfriend, what do you think? What kind of good person would miss a scumbag ex? Zhao Xuefei smiled and said, Shuofeng likes me now, don't ask such boring questions next time. As soon as their voice fell, there was a cry of surprise from the corner. Xiu, your hand. Everyone looked over and found that Lin Xiu had crushed the wine glass at some point, and the glass shards were embedded in her hand, a bloody mess, and blood was dripping down. Chen Xiao wanted to clean it for her, but she pushed him away. She seemed to feel no pain, and didn't even look at her injured hand, just staring at me. Xu Shufeng, what you said just now, are you lying? There was expectation in her eyes, and I didn't know what she was expecting. She expected me to continue to like her after being hurt so deeply by her? I looked at her expressionlessly, Lin Xiu, I chose the truth, I don't need to lie. If I still had feelings for her, I wouldn't agree to be with Zhao Xuefei, after all, it was unfair to Zhao Shuefei. Impossible. Her voice suddenly rose, scaring everyone. Someone stood up to persuade her, but Lin Xiu gave her a cold look and persuaded her to leave. She stood up and walked towards me, her eyes full of hurt and sadness, as if she was the one who was abandoned. Zhao Shuefei stood in front of me. Lin Xiu, Xu Shufeng is my boyfriend now, your fiancé is over there, if you want to go crazy, go to him. Get out of here. Seeing that she wanted to attack Zhao Shuefei, I stood up with an angry look and looked at her coldly. Lin Xiu, how long are you going to go crazy? Lin Xiu looked at me with a hurt face, her eyes red as if she was about to cry. Xu Shufeng, you are mine. We grew up together. You can only be with me. How can you like someone else? You can fall in love with Chen Xiao, so why can't I? Or in your eyes, should I be a slut and only love you for the rest of my life? Lin Xiu shook her head quickly. No, that's not the case. I like you too. As long as you are willing to come back to me, I can break off the engagement with a Xiao. Let's get back together, okay? She looked humble, but I didn't feel any emotion in my heart. No matter what happens between you and Chen Xiao, I can't get back together with you, because I feel sick when I see you now. After saying that, I pulled Zhao Shuefei away. I didn't want to break up with her in public, but she was too shameless. I don't know how she could become such a person. In the next game, as long as Lin Xiu and Chen Xiao were there, I refused everything. Later, when they called Lin Xiu, they didn't look for me, and when they asked me to go, they didn't call Lin Xiu, and we didn't meet again. I thought we would never have any more interactions, but she actually started to deal with Zhao Shuefei's company. I didn't know about this at first, until Zhao Shuefei's overtime hours became longer and longer. I noticed something was wrong and checked it out, and then I knew that Lin Xiu had been suppressing Zhao Shuefei's company. Moreover, her suppression was not normal, it was completely a vicious competition that hurt the enemy by 1,000 and hurt herself by 800. If this continues, the final result will be a lose-lose situation. I feel that she is really crazy. When Grandpa Lin was still around, she could restrain herself a little, but now she is completely like a mad dog, biting whoever she catches. I didn't want to care about this matter at first, but seeing that Zhao Shuefei was getting busier and busier, and some news that her company was going bankrupt began to spread from the outside world, I decided to go to Lin Xiu. After half a year, I stepped into her office again, and my heart was calm. Seeing me, Lin Xiu looked very happy and immediately asked the secretary to prepare the fruits I liked. Shuofen, sit down quickly, what do you want to talk to me about? I sat down on the sofa. I hope you won't deal with Zhao Shuefei's company anymore, it's not good for you. The two companies used to have a lot of cooperation, but recently they have been tossed around by Lin Xiu, and now they have almost cut off cooperation and become enemies. The smile on Lin Xiu's face froze, and after a long while, she spoke coldly. Are you here for Zhao Shuefei? Yes. As long as you are willing to come back to me, I will let her go. Lin Xiu, if you continue to deal with Zhao Shuefei, your company will also go bankrupt. Lin was founded by Grandpa Lin. If he knew that it was destroyed in your hands, he would not rest in peace in the underworld. When mentioning Grandpa Lin, Lin Xiu's expression relaxed a little. I was about to continue to persuade her, but she suddenly looked up at me. Before Grandpa died, his biggest wish was that we could be together again. If it weren't for Grandpa Lin giving me that bank card before his death and saying those words to me, I might really have been deceived by Lin Xiu. Lin Xiu, even if you lied to me with Grandpa Lin's dying wish, I can't be with you anymore, because I don't love you anymore. Don't love me? How could you not love me? You promised to wait for me forever. Her expression became excited, and she stood up and seemed to walk towards me. Don't come over. I quickly stood up and stepped back, trying to distance myself from her. But my action seemed to anger her, and she walked towards me quickly. I ran towards the office door, and as soon as my hand touched the door handle, she hugged me from behind, and she also locked the office door, so I couldn't open it at all. Crazy. I was already cursing in my heart, but I could only take a deep breath to calm myself down. Now I don't have time to regret coming to her today, I have to find a way to save myself. Lin Xiu, calm down. Shuofen, as long as you are willing to come back to me, I will let Zhao Shuefei go. Isn't it good to come back to me? I will treat you well and compensate you hundreds and thousands of times what I owe you before. Let me go first, and we will talk about this slowly. I feel uncomfortable with you like this now. No, if I let you go, you will run away immediately, I know. I gritted my teeth and cursed Lin Siyu in my heart, but I still had to comfort her on the surface. Siyu, I promise I won't run away. Let me go first. I also have something to say to you. Really? Yeah. Shuofan, you'd better not lie to me. Lin Siyu let me go, but her dark eyes stared at me tightly, not giving me any chance to escape. I went back to the sofa, thinking about how to leave here. Lin Siyu seemed to see through my thoughts. Shuofan, you don't have to think about how to escape. I won't let you go. I originally planned to wait until Zhao Shuefei's company went bankrupt, and then get you back, but now you have come to me on your own initiative. I will not let you leave me again. Lin Siyu, why don't you let me go? If she really loved me, she wouldn't have fallen in love with Chen Xiao in college and wanted to die for Chen Xiao. Later, we got married by accident. I thought I could win her heart back, but when Chen Xiao came back to her, she couldn't wait to divorce me. Shuofan, we should have been together for a lifetime. It's not that I don't want to let you go, it's that you like someone else and want to escape from me. As she spoke, her expression became cold and terrifying. If I hadn't been with Zhao Shuefei, but continued to pester you, you would definitely hate me to the extreme now. You don't like me, but you can't stand the fact that the person who has been chasing after you suddenly leaves one day, and your self-esteem won't allow it. No. She walked in front of me and squatted down. My whole body began to tense up, and I looked at her with vigilance. If she dared to do anything to me, I wouldn't let her have it easy. Shuofan, during the 3 months of pretending to be bankrupt, I realized your love for me, and I gradually fell in love with you, but I didn't realize it at that time. Now I know that I love you. As long as you give me a chance, we can start over. Her eyes were full of expectation, but I felt disgusted for no reason when I thought about waking up to see her face every day. Yes, my feelings for her have changed from liking her to disgusting her. I hate her so much that I don't want to see this face in my life. Wouldn't it be better to part ways amicably? After hurting me so deeply, she had to pretend to be affectionate and let me be with her. How could such a good thing happen in the world? What about Chen Xiao? What are you going to do? Lin Siyu's expression suddenly froze, and after a long while, she whispered, I am sorry for him, and I will make it up to him. Lin Siyu, you are so selfish and disgusting. She looked up in disbelief. Shuofan, why do you? I sneered, I feel disgusted when I see you, and it is even more impossible for me to be with you. I would rather die. Lin Siyu was stunned, and the whole person was frozen in place like a sculpture. I pushed her away and ran to the door quickly. A few steps away from the door, the office door was suddenly slammed open, and Zhao Shuefei stood at the door with a cold expression. I was stunned for a moment, and the next second she pulled me behind her. Zhao Shuefei, if you don't want your company to go bankrupt, get out of the way immediately. Zhao Shuefei sneered, Lin Siyu, do you think you can threaten me? I have found a new cooperative company, and now I am not afraid of you at all. Lin Siyu's face was extremely ugly, staring at Zhao Shuefei, with cold eyes. No matter what, I have to snatch Shu Shufeng back. Snatch? What do you think Shu Shufeng is? An object. What's it got to do with you? He's my boyfriend, what's it got to do with me? Just as the two were about to rush up and wrestle, Chen Xiao's trembling voice came from behind. Lin Siyu, didn't you tell me that you would live a good life with me? Why are Shu Shufeng and Zhao Shuefei here? I turned back to look at Chen Xiao. At this moment, his face was pale, and his eyes were full of disappointment when he looked at Lin Siyu. A Xiao. Lin Siyu looked bitter, but did not make any excuses. Since you really can't let go of Shu Shufeng, I will help you and leave by myself. After saying that, he turned around and walked away quickly. Lin Siyu's face changed, and she quickly chased in the direction where Chen Xiao left. Shuefei. Zhao Shuefei ignored me, her face was gloomy, and she was obviously very angry. Don't be angry, I came here today just to persuade her not to deal with your company anymore. Seeing you so hard, I feel distressed. Zhao Shuefei took a deep breath, her voice was angry, are you stupid? Knowing that she was plotting against you, you still came to her? What if I don't arrive in time today, what will you do? On my way to Lin's, I sent a message to Zhao Shuefei. Didn't I send you a message? And I believe you can protect me. If you dare to do this again next time, I'll show you how I can deal with you. After returning to the car, I asked her if she really found a new partner. She nodded. Of course, you don't believe in my strength. Believe, as long as we can get through this difficult time for the company. The next morning, Chen Xiao suddenly found me. He looked decadent and pale, which was very different from his previous high-spirited look. Xu Shufeng, I lost to you, and I lost miserably. For his current ending, I have no sympathy, nor do I want to mock him. I never thought about winning you, I just bet that she would forget you, and I lost the bet in the end. He smiled bitterly. It doesn't matter anyway, I was going to leave her, and she didn't stop me, saying that she would give me some money to compensate me. My heart sank when I heard that, and I had a bad feeling. Seeing my ugly face, he sighed. You should have guessed that she is a lunatic now, and she wants to be with you no matter what, so you should be careful. If she simply doesn't love me, I won't leave her, but now she wants to use Lin to deal with Zhao, and once she loses, Lin will go bankrupt. It seems that the love between them is just like this. Chen Xiao looked at me and said lightly, you don't need to look at me with that kind of eyes. If she loves me, I am willing to accompany her even if it means suffering, but she doesn't love me, why should I live a hard life with her? After thinking for a moment, I understood. For Chen Xiao, taking the money and leaving now is indeed the best choice. Thank you for telling me this, I will be careful. That afternoon, I moved to another house. After all, it was not safe to continue living here. If Lin Xiu sneaked into my house while I was sleeping, I didn't know what would happen. Zhao Xuefei noticed my anxiety and hugged me and told me that everything was about to end. She would not let Lin Xiu have the chance to hurt me. Although I moved away, I could still see the situation at my door from the surveillance. Lin Xiu really came to find me. She waited at my door all night and left when I didn't show up. I didn't even go to the company and stayed at home all day. It was not until half a month later that Zhao Xuefei came to tell me that Lin's went bankrupt and Lin Xiu would not bother me anymore. I was relieved. Lin Xiu wanted to bring down Zhao's, but her previous reckless behavior of falling out with Zhao had angered many shareholders. In addition, Lin's stock price had been falling, and many shareholders sold their shares. However, Lin Xiu still insisted on dealing with Zhao, which eventually led to the breakdown of Lin's capital chain and bankruptcy. After knowing this, I sighed and was a little worried. She won't make a comeback, will she? No, her leg was broken by a previous competitor, and she can only live in a wheelchair for the rest of her life, and I won't give her this opportunity. After hearing this, I didn't feel sympathy, I just felt that she deserved it. After I divorced her, she should have been with Chen Xiao and none of these things would have happened, but she was greedy and sacrificed her company and her life. After thinking for a moment, I found the bank card that Grandpa Lin left me and handed it to Zhao Xuefei. This is the money Grandpa Lin left me before he died, but I haven't figured out what to do with it. This money should be transferred to Lin Xiu every month for her to live on. Zhao Xuefei nodded, okay. I didn't pay attention to Lin Xiu anymore. She pretended to be bankrupt and wanted to divorce me before. Now she is really bankrupt. I don't know if she can understand how I felt at that time. But it doesn't matter anymore. She is just a page in my life that has been turned over. She will never have any influence on my future life. I will go on with the one I love. Lin Xiu Extra. I have known Xu Shufeng since I can remember. When he was a child, Xu Shufeng was like a milk ball. Everyone who saw him liked him. I like him too. My mother said that she arranged a marriage for Xu Shufeng and me, and we will get married when we grow up. I asked my mother what marriage is, and she said that marriage is two people being together for a lifetime. Later, we went to elementary school together and met a new friend, Zhao Xuefei. The three of us went to school together, we brought all kinds of delicious food from home every day to share, and became a famous iron triangle in elementary school. I hope that the three of us will be so close for the rest of our lives, but when I was in junior high school, I suddenly found out that Zhao Xuefei liked Xu Shufeng. At that moment, I didn't panic. Zhao Xuefei has a better personality than me, and she is not bad looking. Xu Shufeng has said many times that Zhao Xuefei is much better than me. I didn't take it seriously before, but what if he also likes Zhao Xuefei, what should I do? I began to do some ambiguous actions to him intentionally or unintentionally, and found that he would blush, confirming that he liked me, and I finally breathed a sigh of relief. The next step was to find a way to break up with Zhao Xuefei, and Xu Shufeng naturally chose me. 3 people became 2 again, but I didn't feel sad, because he belonged to me again. College entrance examination results, the relationship ended, I failed and couldn't go to the same university with him. On the day of registration, I hugged him at the airport and warned him fiercely not to like other women. He did it, but I broke my promise. In college, I met Chen Xiao, who was from a poor family but had a tough and stubborn personality. He and Xu Shufeng were completely different types. Xu Shufeng was like a flower raised in a greenhouse, while Chen Xiao was a wild flower growing on the edge of a cliff, stubbornly taking root and blooming wantonly, making people feel both distressed and admired. After discovering that I had a good impression of Chen Xiao, I also tried to escape, but failed, and finally fell in love with him uncontrollably. I didn't know how to tell Xu Shufeng that I fell in love with someone else, but he was so sensitive that he soon found out. He gradually stopped looking for me and kept his distance from me. At first, I felt guilty, but the excitement of being with Chen Xiao diluted these emotions. During the time I was with Chen Xiao, I completely forgot about Xu Shufeng. If we hadn't broken up when we graduated from college, I think I might have really married Chen Xiao. At that time, Chen Xiao didn't know that my family was rich. I persuaded him to go back to Suzhou with me, but he insisted on going to work in Beijing. We had a fierce argument. He broke up in a rage, and then bought a ticket and went to Beijing secretly. I was very angry when I found out, but I also wanted to save our relationship, so I bought a ticket and planned to go to find him. Before getting on the bus, I received a call from my grandfather, saying that Xu Shufeng's parents had died in a car accident. I changed the ticket and returned to Suzhou. Xu Shufeng was in a bad state during that time, and I couldn't leave him to find Chen Xiao. When Xu Shufeng came out, I saw Chen Xiao posted a circle of friends, and a beautiful woman was sitting opposite him. His roommate asked him if he had started a new relationship, and he generously admitted it. Later I found out that he just saw that I didn't coax him and couldn't bring himself to do it, so he deliberately posted this circle of friends, and when I questioned him, he told me that he was deliberately irritating me. But everything was so wrong, I didn't ask him, and we missed each other. I was depressed for a while, often drunk, and Xu Shufeng always came to pick me up. In fact, our first time, I knew it was him. I just couldn't accept that I didn't like Chen Xiao anymore, so I said I recognized the wrong person. Later, my grandfather forced me to marry him with this, and I was dissatisfied, but I thought that since it was impossible to be with Chen Xiao anyway, it would be good to marry Xu Shufeng. At least, he can be happy. The moment I put the ring on him, his eyes were red, and I thought he should be happy. After marriage, we lived a peaceful life, and sometimes I would create some small surprises. Seeing the surprise on his face, I thought it seemed good. Until Chen Xiao appeared, he told me that he had never been with anyone else and had been waiting for me, but I didn't go to him, so he had to come to me. I was touched to know that he quit his high-paying job in North City and returned to Suzhou to be with me. But I did not hide from him that I was married to Xu Shufeng. He was very sad at first and then prepared to leave. When I sent him to the plane, I couldn't help hugging him at the last moment and asked him not to leave. He stayed, but I didn't know how to ask Xu Shufeng for a divorce. I didn't want to hurt him, but I couldn't let Chen Xiao down. After thinking for a long time, I came up with the idea of pretending to be bankrupt and let Xu Shufeng ask for a divorce from me himself. In this way, I wouldn't have to feel sorry for him. However, to my surprise, Xu Shufeng actually accompanied me through 3 months of suffering. Seeing him go out early and come back late every day, so tired that he could fall asleep when he took a shower at home, I was moved and distressed. I wanted to tell him the truth several times, but when the words came to my lips, I didn't know how to start. I realized that I had done something wrong, but now I didn't know how to remedy it, so I could only continue to make mistakes. Unexpectedly, Xu Shufeng suddenly found out. He also filed for divorce as I wished, but I was not happy at all. After the divorce, I tried not to think about him anymore, but his smiling face always appeared in front of me when I was with Chen Xiao. My hands holding the plate tightened unconsciously, and I felt uneasy in my heart. My feet seemed to be nailed to the spot and could not move at all. Like him, later, he was with Zhao Xuefei, and I almost went crazy. How could he fall in love with someone else? How could he be with someone else? I tried desperately to snatch him back from Zhao Xuefei, but the way he looked at me was no longer full of love, only disgust. I thought that as long as I let him come back to me, he would fall in love with me again one day. After all, we grew up together and are the most important people in each other's lives. I began to suppress Zhao's like crazy. The shareholders of the company were trying to stop me, but I didn't intend to stop. In the end, Shen's went bankrupt, and I was also broken in the leg by the people sent by the rival company. I can only spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair, losing my pride and the person I love most. Later, Zhao Shuefei came to see me once and handed me a bank card, saying that it was left to him by his grandfather before he died. He didn't use it, and gave it to me when I was at my lowest point. He has always been so kind, and I really don't deserve him. Now, I only wish him happiness and peace for the rest of his life. Even if all this has nothing to do with me.